interesting and important hearing. I appreciate it. Before I begin my questioning, I want to acknowledge the young lady sitting behind me, Carolyn Colin, who has been my staff member on this committee for a number of years, who is leaving me for the Energy Office of the Governor of Maine. So this will be our last hearing, and I wanted to acknowledge
Raise your hand.
Caroline's good work. Caroline, raise your hand.
This one's Caroline.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. A couple of issues. Mr. Nally, gasoline prices follow oil prices. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And oil prices have basically tripled per barrel. Last time I looked, September of 20, it was $25 a barrel. Now it's close to 80.
The mid-'80s, yes.
Correct. So that means gasoline prices are going to increase. That's just the reality. Why has oil gone up so much?
Well, I think it's again coming out of the pen.
It's the recovery, right? Increased demand.
Yes.
There's one law that this Congress can't repeal, the law of supply and demand.
The demand is outpacing production.
And therefore, gasoline prices are up. I'd like to introduce for the record a recent article from Forbes about the blame for gas prices. I once woke up on a beautiful Maine morning and said to my wife, I brought us this beautiful day. This was when I was governor. And my wife said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I get blamed for things that aren't my fault. I may as well take credit for them every now and then. And I think often politicians, and particularly presidents, get blamed for gas prices, which in fact fluctuate substantially, as we know, based upon oil prices and fluctuations in the market, rarely from executive action. So I would like to submit this article.
Without objection.
Into it in some detail. Second is natural gas. I'm really worried about exports. I've been making this argument for 5 years. And I have a chart that indicates what's going on. And remember, I talked about the law of supply and demand. So this is exports, and if you take it back, this starts with 2018. If you take it back about another 5 years, they were zero. And now, as you see, we're up to 10 billion cubic feet a day, which is about 10 or 11% of current U.S. production. So it's gone from 0 to 10 or 11% that's going to export. As the chairman says, because of high prices. That's where the gas is going to go. My problem is the projection, and we've got plants that have been approved to take this number to 20% and even higher. Our friend Mr. Bryce is an advocate of the free market. There is no question, is Mr. Bryce, that an increase of 20% in demand for a commodity that, at least at this present time, seems to be growing fairly slowly, is going to increase prices, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay, no question about that. We are exporting our principal advantage in the world economy. We are literally subsidizing Chinese manufacturing by sending them our natural gas. The other item I want to submit for the record is a letter received just yesterday by Industrial Energy Consumers of America, which are big corporations, big companies employing 1.8 million people with $1 trillion worth of sales. If exports were limited to a surplus, then it wouldn't affect domestic prices, but it has to be affecting domestic prices, and it's getting serious now, but it's going to be a real problem in 3 or 4 or 5 years because we're on track to export 20, 30, 40% of our natural gas. And that is going to be a disaster for an advantage that we have now. All the testimony has been how low our prices are compared to the rest of the world. Why would we want to screw that up? And that's what's happening to our manufacturers. Senator Barrasso is right, to our electric consumers. We are squandering an advantage right now because of uncontrolled exports of natural gas. Now, what I'm going to be proposing legislation, not to limit it, not to control it, not to cut it off, but to at least have the Department of Energy do a study when they're going to approve an export license as to what the effect will be on domestic prices. To me, that's just common sense. We don't do that now. In fact, there's a presumption in favor that it's in the national interest, that's the phrase, the national interest in the Gas Act to approve these applications. I think that's crazy. And that's exactly what we're doing. And what my legislation will do is simply say, we want you to do a study of what the impact will be on domestic prices. And if we say, oh, that's okay, we can live with that, that's one thing. But right now, we don't even do that kind of analysis, or if we do, it's after the fact and slowly. So, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a really important hearing, and this natural gas export is, we're racing blindly into a future and cutting off our most significant economic advantage vis-a-vis the rest of the world, particularly China. Thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly. With that, we'll have Senator Daines.